Well, this is a question I wish the government to begin with would answer. I have been one of those who's been for 15 years saying we need a publicly proclaimed national security strategy. Every country has it. Even the Pakistanis have issued a national security strategy document. But India, as usual, we have and I know there are some distinguished bureaucrats and diplomats in this room, but we seem to have a chronic diplomatic and bureaucratic allergy to tying our hands with any documents, any laws, any international conventions.
You've been minister, so you should tell us something why.
Well, there is, I think, the feeling that we'd like to, that we benefit more from ad hocery than I believe we do. There is an ingrained cultural feeling that, for example, I mean, to take a totally different subject, nothing to do with what we're talking about, I had advocated for some time that India should sign the International Convention and Protocol on Refugees, saying that, we are a democracy, we should live up to the standards that the world expects of democracies in treating people. And in fact, in practice, civilizationally, we have been a home for refugees for 3,000 years. So why shouldn't we actually implement that? The pushback is extremely strong. There isn't a home minister in either the UPA government or the NDA government that's willing to even contemplate this option. I took one step further and introduced a draft private member's bill. But they say they don't want their hands to be tied. They would like to have the freedom to decide which refugees they want to accept and which ones they don't. And I think the problem with that is it is not, to my mind, a sensible policy for a democracy, because ad hocism lays us vulnerable to various kinds of problems arising with each specific situations. If you have a refugee law, a status determination process that determines whether an applicant is a refugee or not, or a class of applicants can be given status or not, you actually have a legal basis you can show the world. Sorry, this group of people we do not consider to be refugees, and therefore we are deporting them. Right now, the ad hocism makes us look very often anything but the kind of democracy that we like to see ourselves as being regarded as in the world. So that's one example. This ad hocism is something people, if you publish a national security strategy, the others will read meanings into it. It'll tie our hands if we do this or don't do that. Let's not have a strategy. I mean, that's, to my mind, silly. At one point, a draft was prepared by one of the National Security Advisory Councils. It never saw the light of day. And the truth is that this is an example where if we had a policy, we can say, well, look, this is how we see the world. This is where we understand the principal challenges to us to be, and therefore our relationships with other countries will be governed by our desire to protect ourselves against these challenges. So for argument's sake, if you see that your principal military threat is China, in a moment of crisis, who will stand with you in a conflict with China? You better know the answer to that, because otherwise... But if you say no, on the contrary, we're going to have great relations with China, we're going to be trading with them, we've already got a $100 billion import deficit, we'll double that. Some people in our business community would love to see us getting even more embedded with China, attracting Chinese investment, all of that. Then the question of needing allies against China becomes academic because you've already capitulated. But what is your position? Mark it out. I've articulated my view, but that's my view. And I frankly... And I've been a member of parliament and individual Indian citizen. That's it.